see, up next, we actually have John Dorman, who is also with the State Department of Public Safety. He is the Assistant State Emergency Management Director, and he's responsible for the design, acquisition, analysis, and dissemination of data, models, systems, and applications associated with all hazard and threat risk management. Mr. Dorman previously served as the Deputy Director of the Office of State Policy and Planning, and later as the statewide Planning Administrator for the Office of State Budget, Planning, and Management. So following Hurricane Floyd in 1999, North Carolina petitioned FEMA and became the first state in the nation designated a cooperating technical state. So the North Carolina Floodplain Mapping Program was then created and placed under Mr. Dorman's supervision. So in 2001, his hazard focus expanded from just natural to include accidental and man-made. 2005, he was given the additional responsibility for managing all IT infrastructure, communications, and applications for the North Carolina Emergency Management. So Mr. Dorman has managed numerous statewide initiatives, including the acquisition of LiDAR-derived topographic data, digital orthophotography, building footprints, school risk management planning, flood inundation mapping and alert network, and state emergency response application. He's chair of the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Technical Mapping Advisory Council, TMAC, and now he'll present on school risk management planning.
Sure, that was a lot more than what y'all wanted to know, but I appreciate you going through that. I'm going to go with the PowerPoint, I think, just to be safe. So, yeah, I'd like to talk about the school risk and response management system that's been set up for the state. We have been incorporated with that and working very hard to finish that process up. So, show you a little bit about it. The background, Columbine, Sandy Hook, a lot of different locations, Wayne Community College down east. A lot of them have had situations where active shooters or intruders have come in. You just never know what's going to happen at a school. And so when Governor McCrory came in back in 2013, he identified the Center for Safer Schools and a task force that would look at improving safer schools. From that, the task force came up with a number of recommendations, one of them being that there needs to be a comprehensive district-wide and school-specific safety plan. DPI works on this already, and many of the counties have a good bit of this information, but it was just reemphasized, and more importantly, it needed to be updated and regularly drilled, tested out. So from that, the TMAC came up with that there needed to be digital plans that looked at everything from prevention all the way through mitigation for different hazards, and that there needed to be a web-based application. Not to be outdone, the General Assembly in 2014 and in 2015 said, okay, let's establish the school risk and response management system. That was done through legislation, and a number of parties were identified. The Department of Public Instruction, of course, our agency, Emergency Management, the 911 Board, and then other local emergency management and school systems were a part of that as well. And from that, the idea of a overall framework or system was established, and that would be the collection of all the building floor plans for every approximately 2,400 schools. So we've done that. The establishment of a digital school risk management planning tool that has a GIS component to it. That's called SHRIMP. Probably not the best term to use, but that's what we use. And then all of that information feeds into the state emergency response application that seamlessly pulls the planning information for first responders. There's also an anonymous safety tip app called Speak Up North Carolina, and then we will be moving towards creating a panic alarm application that is mobile. With that, local school systems are required now to utilize the SHRIMP tool to put their school risk plans into this system. It's a requirement. There has to be a tabletop exercise with the school system to test those plans out once a year, and drills at each of the schools. It has to be digital, and of course, it's using our system. So I just give you a full idea of what is required and what's been set up. You probably would have said, I'd rather look at this than hear you talk, John, but this is basically the framework or the vision build out for what this looks like. Over on the left is really the anonymous safety tool. That actually is what a student in middle school or high school can use to push a button, and it spatially says, we are seeing drinking, drugs, weapons, discussions of suicide. That goes to the school resource officer, and it also goes to the SBI. And those two folks say, okay, this is the school that it's at, and we need to explore that. Shrimp is what my office has been doing, the planning tool, and I'll show that to you. But that's basically working through all the different types of hazards that may occur and what would be the procedures and how does the floor plan play into that. That information seamlessly fits into Sarah, and Sarah is on the response side. So any law enforcement, first responder, emergency manager, as they're going to the scene or even on a sunny day, can look at the floor plan, look at the procedures and say, this is actually what is going on right now. And then final thing is the panic button. And this is where someone on their phone, a teacher, an SRO, an administrator in the school can push the panic button, and it basically gives a geospatial location where that phone is being pushed, and it also goes directly to the 911 center. That point on the phone is actually displaying on Sarah, the emergency response application. So let me show you. You may say, all right, why is emergency management in this? Emergency management, our office, we deal with hazard risk assessments, risk planning tools, real-time situational information, and data collection, as Carla mentioned. One of the reasons why we got into this is because in our office, we have a spatial set of applications that do risk management as well. So for any of the dams that you have in your county or municipality, we actually spatially track that and what happens if there's a dam breach or a breach of a dam, child care facilities or licensed care facilities. All of those, you have a lot of them in the state and in your community, and trying to understand where those are located and what will be the plan if certain things happen. We have one for fuel. I'll talk about higher education in a minute. We're moving into doing chemicals to know where all the chemical products are located. And then, of course, mental health. So I say all that long-winded to say that's really why we were defined as the one looking at risk management. Let me flip. This is just the other thing on the real time. We actually, Sparta is what Carla talked about. We had the flood warning system. And then here's the state response application, emergency response application that provides the real time. I say all that because over here on the left, you see the yellow box. The yellow box basically is the applications that you can use on the web app for each of these. And we're not just doing K through 12. We're now doing community colleges. We're now doing universities. We're also going to be doing state government facilities, and we'll be doing the dams. So all of that risk planning, floor plan information will all go into the state emergency response application. So if any one of you is a law enforcement officer in your county, you'll be able to go to the website and pull up any of these locations and be able to see the floor plan and the response. Just a point of emphasis, whatever is being plugged into the school emergency response application seamlessly, simultaneously is viewed in the state emergency response app, and a whole lot of additional data is there. What do we look at in the plan? You can see the different natural, accidental, and intentional hazards, but others may add additional hazards to that, so we'll apply and utilize all of those. The process for doing the plan, we've actually constructed a plan. We gather the plan from a community if they have one. Forsyth County is going to get up here in just a minute and talk. They've got a great plan. What we're doing is we're just ingesting their information into what would be a statewide system. Once we've done that and agreed to it, we basically populate that out to every school in their district. And by doing that, then we train principals or other individuals, and we finish those plans up and they're digital so they're able to be maintained simultaneously. Let me just go to the application. Well, I think I've got the wrong thing here. Let me go to the application. I'll just show it this way. On the planning side, very quickly, there is a password requirement. Let's see. And you have to be good at typing. Let me go over here. Let me just show you the emergency response application. This is actually in Winston-Salem. This is one of their schools, and you can see this is what we've done with all of the schools. You can see we've got their floor plan, whether it was a PDF, whether it was a CAD drawing. What we've done is enhanced the PDF and overlaid the spatial location on top of the imagery. The information that we're collecting in the planning tool, some of it is their profile. So what a law enforcement or emergency manager can look at is that this school has 1,250 students, 72 staff. You get the time, the hours. Well, let's say they wanted to, on their phone, as they're driving to the scene, you have their email, you have their phone number, and this applies to each of those different individuals as they decide. So in the planning tool, you can put as many of these folks in there. Buildings. You can see there are a lot of different buildings up here. So we allow the first responder to pick on any of those. What we've got is the main, but let's say we wanted to go to the second floor. So it would basically bring up the second floor. You can zoom into this. And let's go back to the main floor. And what you can do in the planning tool is you have the ability for each point that you place on the map to be able to write and define some specifics about that. So let's say this was actually a gas line. You could define which way you turn it or what the pipe size is or where the fire hydrant is, all different kinds of things. What we've been working with counties on is we also have the ability to put on the map in the planning tool each of the different points for where the cameras are inside the school. And we'll actually be able to tie into those camera URLs, and a school response officer or resource officer would actually be able to click on that and see live feeds of what's going on in the classroom. So it's our hope that we'll be able to utilize that. Of course, we have the legend over here, a lot of different things that you can look at. And then, of course, we have the layers. You can turn those on and off. But then also you have the ability in the from the planning tool is what would you do for an active shooter? And so this describes what the school would be doing during the period of time for response. And then they've also written what would be done for recovery. We're working with each of the schools on what those items would be, but that is the approach. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. Let me talk about the panic alarm piece real quick. So the panic alarm is really looking at how a mobile application both notifies the 911 center directly, but also spatially displays in the state emergency response app. Our desire is to basically provide a position and location, but also the ability to have a two-way, if not one-way, audio or video. And then, of course, the ability to track and know where an individual is of significant importance to us. So that geospatial location is very important. I won't go through that piece for the time, but this is what the newest version of the state emergency response application would look like. So you can see up along the top bar, you've got the school, you've got the campus, you've got the floor plan again. But up here at the top, you see the word status normal. That would be what you'd be seeing in the emergency response application if everything was good. But our intent is that for a lanyard or a cell phone or for an iPad to have some software that as you push the button, it automatically goes into the system, into Sarah, and as first responders are heading to the scene, all of the teachers' GPS phone or lanyard shows up. And now, instead of having a color code sheet of paper that you put under the door, or they have to walk down the hall and try to figure out where the issues are, red defines that I'm not safe and green defines I am. Being that they have the phone or the lanyard with them, you can see some of these teachers have actually already evacuated the building, and you can start knowing where they are, who they are, and by knowing the school room, you actually know how many students have now gotten out of harm's way. So that's our intent with the emergency response panic button, and we hope that will allow a more efficient response. So that's my quick presentation, but any questions that I can answer? Everybody enjoy the pretzels.